Hey, what's going on, gang? Welcome to the Typical Thoughts podcast. I am your host, Joe Sanchez, and we're going to talk about stuff that we all think about, but we do not like to share with others. Now, we're going to keep it clean so that everybody can enjoy it, so stay tuned and enjoy the show. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hello, and welcome back again to the Typical Thoughts podcast. Again, I am your host, Joe Sanchez, and I have the lovely pleasure of having my mom with me here today. Mom, how are you?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
I am good. It could be day, it could be night. How do you know it's night?
Because I am not blind.
Here we go again. That's why I love her. That's why I love talking to her at all times.
I love you too.
So yeah, how's everybody doing? Last podcast that I had, I spoke a little bit about the differences between conservatism and what is it? What's the other thing? Liberalism. That's what it is. Yeah. The difference between conservatism and liberalism. And there was a few things that I didn't include. There was a few issues that I left out because I ran out of time. But what I'm gonna do is I'll probably do another episode about it with you, Mom. We'll talk about some of those things. There's a long list on that website if you guys remember, and if you go back to it,
and very interesting.
Too. It's a lot of interesting stuff. But today we have an interesting subject also. Now we're not gonna go too deep into details. It's just a matter of information. Again, this is the Typical Thoughts podcast. Things that we all think about, but we just don't share with others. And a lot of times we're just afraid of sharing these things. You know, sometimes we think, oh, was Jesus real? I mean, or not? You know,
questions that we sometimes may ask ourselves, but are afraid to ask others. You know, in fear of being
and God
called ignorant or something.
Or you may think that just because you have doubts, God is going to punish you. A doubt is part of our daily lives. It's not the fact that you may doubt. It's that how do you react to those doubts? Where do you seek answers? You know, your questions. Mm-hmm. You know, we always go to the Bible.
And you know, we don't learn unless we ask. So it's always good to ask.
Yeah, but again, a lot of people they think they're judges. They like to judge others, and that's not what I want to do. I know that's not what you do. I just like to talk about things. And right now, what we like to talk about is Jesus Christ, the man, the man. Now, there's a lot of debates. There's a lot of people even people that believe in the Bible, that for some reason they think, or their opinion is that Jesus was not a real man. It's a metaphor.
Right.
You know,
right.
You know, just like Pastor was saying today, they may be Christians, but they may not be believers. Right. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they think, or let's talk about non-believers, non-Christians. Okay. They may think Jesus was an important man, but he wasn't real. Like he wasn't the Son of God. But then a lot of people, they argue the fact that Jesus actually
was a man,
walked earth. Mm-hmm. You know, what do you have to say about that? What do you think?
Well, I know for a fact he was 100% man, 100% God.
What tells you that? How do you know?
The Bible.
The Bible. And convictions, right? You have a conviction. Yes. We have a faith.
Definitely.
That tells us, you know, we believe this is real, and we just have a feeling, and a lot of people can't explain it, but we have a spirit inside of us, and that it talks to us about all these things. But you know for a fact, because your conviction tells you Jesus Christ was a real man, and he gave his life for us.
Absolutely.
Do you have I know you have some references and you have some stuff there. Do you have like a consensus of what a lot of people say about Jesus, the man walking on earth?
Well, no, not what I do have is it's you see, I was looking in the internet, and there's different opinions, obviously.
Of course, a lot of people people think yes, people think no. It's the way it is.
A lot of people say that yes, there is evidence outside the Bible.
Do you have evidence?
Here I have the historicity of Jesus, which concerns the degree of which Jesus of Nazareth existed. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's this man by the name of Flavius
Josephus?
Yes.
Josephus?
Yes.
But Josephus, if it's the person that I'm thinking of, he was a Jewish historian.
Yes.
He was a Jewish historian. Now, a lot of theologians nowadays, they go back and they use his teachings and his writings as resource.
Okay.
So I know that a lot
Hmm.
of people use those.
Oh, interesting. So he is known, huh?
He is known, yes.
Okay.
He's a Jewish historian.
Well, what this is says, I don't want to go into deep. I'm just gonna say what I've seen so far. Uh, but what he says is, let me see.
Well, while you look into that,
Mm-hmm.
what we have to, one of the things that we should think about when we go to this, when you think of the Bible, first of all, the Bible is more than one book.
Yes.
The Bible is a mix. It's a group of books, 66 books, different authors. Roughly 40 to 44 authors, and it was written in a span of about 1,500 years. So if you want to think of it this way, the first book was written today, and then the last book was written 1,500 years later, 1,500
Right.
years.
After, yes, yes.
And then what it is,
And that's part of what he explains as well.
yeah, and this is basic Bible history, Bible lessons. And again, we're not going to talk about theology and all those things, but the Bible has an Old Testament, and then it has a New Testament, and then the New Testament starts with Jesus.
Yes.
The New Testament,
Yes.
right? And then the Old Testament ends at the end of the era of the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
So the Old Testament, all of it talks about Jesus. Everything that it says, it points out to a Savior. And then when he comes out, he was named Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have for
Yes.
us?
Well, this Flavius Josephus, like you said, he is the most famous Jewish historian. In his antiquities, I don't know if I'm saying that correct.
We'll figure it out later.
He refers to James, the brother of Jesus.
James, yeah, and James is one of the
James.
books, the epistles, is one of the books in the New Testament towards the end.
Right. However, there's this he is he's written so far back
Mm-hmm.
that some of his writing no longer exists. They're so ancient,
Okay.
according to this that I'm reading here. And this is actually it's called gotquestions.org.
Okay.
That's
That's the
where
website?
that's where I got that's where I'm getting this reference
Okay.
from. And it says that it's so ancient, I should say, that the writing no longer exists. But there's this man called Julius Africanus, and he quotes that the historian,
Josephus?
yes. I mean, I can't really say that I can rely on this because this is just opinion of people.
Well, you could
here.
just tell me, just read what it says and give me some of that stuff. See, I know that in different religions, I think is the Islam, I think the Quran, their Quran, which is their holy book, they do think that Jesus was a man, was a prophet. They think that he was a prophet, he was a good person, but he was not the Son of God.
Of the Son of God.
And that's the big difference between them and Christianity, but between Islam and Christianity.
There's something interesting here. It says there is a controversial verse, 18:3, that says, "Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man.
Okay.
For he was one who wrought surprising feats. He was the Christ. He appeared to them alive again on the third day, as the divine prophet had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him."
That's interesting, but you know what? I don't know if you remember when we studied the book of John. Towards the end, John says, "And many more things were done by Jesus, but if we were to tell them all, will we have enough
Right.
pages to write this down?" The thing about Jesus, the man, when we started talking at the beginning, right? We said conviction. We have a conviction when we talk to each other, when we read the Bible, when we do
Right.
these things. This was a real man. It's not
Right.
just a metaphor. It's not just somebody that just
Mm-hmm.
a book somebody wrote about it. And there's I actually have I mean there's a bunch of Bible verses, but I have a few here of let's say the prophet Isaiah. Now the prophet Isaiah,
Okay.
he's found the book of the prophet Isaiah. He's
Mm.
found on the Old Testament. He's
Right.
one of the major prophets. They call him one of the major prophets, and it's called one of the major prophets because the book has a lot of
Okay.
information
Mm-hmm.
versus a minor prophet, which the book does not have a lot of information or
Right.
as much
Okay.
as a major prophet. And interesting is that the book of Isaiah was written about roughly 500 years before Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And look what it says here in Isaiah 53 chapter 53 verse 4. It says, "Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we consider him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted." So it says,
Wow.
"Surely he took up our pain."
Right. Wow.
It's talking about a man.
Right.
You know, somebody took our pain. And of course, when we
And
read
this
the
was
gospel,
500 years before
yeah, and then
Christ.
Isaiah 53 3, a verse before, he says, "He was despised and rejected by mankind, and a man of suffering and familiar with pain, like one from whom the people hide their faces. He was despised, and we held him in low esteem."
Wow.
And this was 500 years before
Before.
the birth. When you look at the Gospels, and when you study the Gospels, and you see the history of Jesus, the story of Jesus, you see that all this was true and much more.
Right.
Right? So the thing about Jesus, if you read the Bible and you read a lot of these things, you kind of find out that he was just a common man.
Right.
You know, it does not say, and in fact, it says quite the opposite. He did not wear expensive or luxurious clothes.
Right. Right.
He did not rode on expensive donkeys and horses and stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
and being a carpenter, you can imagine that he was a rough-looking man.
imagine if he was a carpenter, the things that he had to do by hand. There was no chainsaw.
Yeah, there's not the
There-
technology that we have nowadays.
there was
It's
no
so
electrical
easy.
equipment, no electrical
Mhm.
tools.
Everything was actually manual. So can you imagine how big his hands must
Imagine,
have been?
yeah, imagine if he had to cut a log. How do you think he would have carried that stuff? He would have moved those
Yeah.
things. You know, it was
Oh,
all
gosh,
physical.
yeah.
And then think about this also. The Bible says that he walked to places.
Yeah.
Right? He walked.
I can imagine him, although rough, a fit man with
Oh,
all the
but
walking
he must have been.
and hard work he did. Very
He must
fit.
have been. Not only that, he must have been dark skinned.
Yeah,
somehow.
because of the sun. Yeah.
The sun, 3 years
Yeah.
under the sun, right? Walking
Yeah.
every day under the sun. Not only that, do you think he had shampoo to shampoo his hair every
Yeah.
day, to wash
Yeah.
his hair every day?
And with the sun and all that, he probably sweat a lot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he how he would, you know, when we see pictures and we see pictures and drawings of Jesus, well, we see a very
Yeah.
clean Jesus
A very
with a
clean,
very
handsome man.
beautiful reflection,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't doubt that he was a beautiful man. He was
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
But the fact is that if he walked under the sun for as long as he did, if he
And
worked
did the
as hard
work.
as he did, he
Mhm.
was probably going to look like a rough, common man.
Yeah.
You know, a working man.
Yeah.
So I do think that he was real. I do know that he was real, but I do think that the way we picture him, it's probably not accurate.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's
and that makes
probably-
a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And you know, Hollywood in our days here in our age, they paint pictures that are not real a lot of the times.
Yeah.
You know, and we tend to think that they're real and think that you know they may be the reality. But the fact is that we have a book. It's called the Bible, and it tells us about Jesus.
So, to your knowledge, is there proof of Jesus existing outside the Bible?
Well, there's history books. There were history books found in old Babylon, which is Iraq now.
Mm-hmm.
And there was books that speak about a man that was walking,
Right.
a man that
okay.
did certain things. There's a book in ancient Roman history.
It's just that they don't refer to him as the Son of God.
Yeah, they don't talk to him about, you know, they don't
The
talk
Son of
of him as the Son of God. And I think, I'm not sure because I'm not really familiar with Islam and their religion, but I think that in the history of Islam, there's books that speak about a man that made a difference back in the days where Jesus was, and he walked and he did these things or not.
Okay.
So I think that we all kind of believe that he was real, Christians and
Yeah.
non-Christians.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
I just think that Christians, we do think that he was the son of God and he gave his life for us.
Right.
But then non-Christians or non-believers, they just think that he was a man, and because you got to think about this. He changed the world.
Yeah.
We don't our calendar is not before Muhammad or after Muhammad. Our calendar is before and after Christ. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Now, I was reading on the same website, again, gotquestions.org, and they do say there is history about a man being crucified.
Really?
Yes.
Who and the history
Yeah.
from where? Does it say?
No, I can't. I don't see it right now. I mean, it's a whole lot of information.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information. And I'm sure it probably does somewhere. But I did read that, yeah, there is history
lot of
of
history.
a man being crucified.
Ye-
But then again, from what I
Crucifixion.
learned when right, it was a common
It was yes, it was
Yeah.
common punishment
Yeah.
for it was
back
sort
in
of like
those
a
days.
yes, crucifixion was a Roman capital punishment
But
type
you know
of
the
thing.
interesting thing
What?
is I was reading is that he arose after 3 days.
That was him.
So they are talking about Jesus Christ.
A lot of places, a lot of different cultures and a lot of different religions, they talk about a man that came, that talked to the people, that gave his life, that was crucified.
Wow,
You know
yeah.
what it is, and we just got to get ready to finish with this. We're already about time, but what it is believing in Jesus Christ requires sacrifice.
Yes.
Whether he was a man, whether he was a prophet, whether believing in this culture, in this day and age that we live,
Yeah.
believing in Jesus Christ requires sacrifice. Why? A lot of people, they're going to mock us. They're going to laugh at us.
Yeah.
They do. They always have, and will continue to do it.
And it's gonna happen.
And then another thing is that when we do say that we believe in him, the Bible requires certain things of us.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that later, about going to church, not going
Mhm.
to church. We already spoke about that. But we just got to get ready to finish this. And you have any last notes?
Everybody have a blessed evening, good night, and we'll talk to you later.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening again. It was great. It was a good topic. Remember, we're not trying to go really into deep into details about these type of things. We just have a typical thought. We wanted to talk about it, and just stay tuned for our next episode. All right, take care, and you have a blessed day.